What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Danny's to Talk. I'm your host Rob, and today I'm doing a long overdue discussion about the warrior princess and the barbaric king, aka the Barbarians Bride, which is the manga title. So this discussion has been much a year long overdue from me because what I'm wanting to do today with this is discuss the series in general, talk about my impressions of the first episode of the anime, and then in the back half of the show, dive into some of the manga related stuff. So, like I said, The Warrior Princess and the Barbaric King. This is one I had read maybe like 15 or so chapters of about this time or earlier last year, and I really enjoyed it. And I think around that time, I had also heard that there was an anime coming up because the anime was originally supposed to come out like fall of last year, but they delayed it to this spring. And so I read it, enjoyed what I read, but then I waited too long to record my thoughts on it, got sidetracked, and then I was like, crap. So I just let it go. Well, with the anime coming out yesterday, I believe, yeah, yesterday is the time of me recording this or whatever, it kind of reignited that interest in the series for me because I saw a lot of discussion happening about it. And I also saw a lot of potential worry and concern with the series. And I was like, you know what? It's time for me to, dust off the microphone and kind of dispel some of these initial concerns and stuff that I'm seeing from anime only people. And like I said, so I enjoyed that first episode so much that it made me go back and read the manga again from the beginning, which is a rare thing for me. And I've read past what I did last year, and I'm on like the early 20s. So I've read what would be the equivalent of four manga volumes worth midway through volume five. So, what is The Warrior Princess and the Barbaric King? So, at its core, it is a series that genre wise, it is a fantasy romance that kind of sets up itself, its characters, and people watching the show, reading the manga, and stuff, whatever, for confusion and kind of some misconceptions of certain things. So, the main characters of the show is the one of the, like a female lead. Her name is Serafina, and the barbaric king, his name is Vaor. And so pretty much they are at war with each other. Serafina's country is trying to make their way east to gain more land because their crops and fields and stuff are kind of dying. They can't really grow stuff to sustain themselves, so they're trying to expand their territory by fighting these barbarians. Well, she ends up getting captured, and Vayar ends up basically taking her prisoner and then proposes to her. So that is surface level what the setup and stuff of this is. Now, what I want to get out the way up front is a couple of things. One, this is all adult cast. So, and I'm saying that because there are some scenes in the anime, as we saw at the end of the first episode, and then a lot that I've seen reading these manga chapters or whatever. There are some adult scenes, some nudity, different things like that. But I wanted to clarify up front that all of these characters are adults. Um, and by adult, I am meaning 18 plus. So Serafina, she's 26. Vayar, he's 18. And some of the other characters you meet, like Cersei, she's Vayar's assistant, she's 19. This priestess Alyssa, she's 23. So on and so forth. So just want to get that up front with these characters and with this series, because I know that can kind of cause some confusion and some hesitancy with certain people. So all adult cast, and there is a lot more happening and going on in this world than what's kind of set up in the beginning, because the things that are happening up front, there is something bigger and more important happening that I'll touch on when I get to the manga portion of this series. But like I said, at its core, it's a fantasy romance about Seraphina on a war conquest, gets defeated, quote unquote, gets defeated, taken prisoner, and then it kind of goes on from there. Now, speaking on and starting with episode one, just to kind of set the table for this. So, the episode, I think, turned out way better, honestly, than what I was expecting, because the way the art style and stuff kind of looked from some of the trailers, and just like some of the stills, the cover art, screenshots, different stuff like that, it seemed like it could have gone either way, as far as like, oh, okay, this is actually better than I thought it would be, or man, this is a disaster of an adaptation. But like I said, that first episode was done so well that, like I said, it kind of renewed my interest in diving back into the series and realizing, like, yeah, this is actually a really, really dope series that has way more going on beyond some of the, you know, adult exposure moments and stuff like that. Because, like I said, a lot of this stuff is misconceptions, misunderstandings between these characters, because I think to kind of keep in mind going forward, and they will mention this as the episodes go on, but that these characters come from different cultural backgrounds, different upbringings and stuff. And so what they are, or some of the barbarian tribe people might do or say, might sound one way, but then they're kind of like, wait, what? Oh, no, like, why are you thinking that? Like, no, I'm just asking blah, 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 blah. Or this awkward position we're in is because of XYZ, dire situation that happened. So there's a lot of stuff, like moments kind of like that early on, that, like I said, I just wanted to kind of hopefully maybe alleviate some people's concerns with the series. Because like I said, as somebody that's read past probably to like where this whole season will cover roughly, there is a lot of great things to see and to discover. Because like I said, they and kind of like rereading it again, it was also really cool and reassuring, just kind of being reminded, like, oh, they kind of, the pace, they kind of, hey, get things going, and not in a rush sense, but like, oh, okay, some of these things that we kind of learn, world building and different things like that, happen earlier than what I remembered, and stuff. So, which, like I said, which is kind of good for those people who kind of stick to the whole like three episode rule for anime. Oh, I'll check out the first few episodes, whatever. I think that they will show enough in these first few episodes to kind of give you a good idea if this is something that you potentially want to stick with, or maybe not, whatever the case may be. But like I said, I just wanted to really just hammer home the point of give the show a fair and honest shake, because there is some really cool stuff here. But going back to the episode, like I said, like the fights and stuff in that first episode looked really cool. And it did a really dope thing to where and I guess this is something I kind of remember them mentioning and stuff, whatever, in the manga, but it's kind of really cool seeing how they animated it. So Seraphina's helmet is made of, or has like this kind of like crystal like like see-through visor thing, whatever. And of course, the way it's drawn in the manga, you can tell it's a kind of like a see-through type of thing. But the way they animated it in the anime, I was like, oh, okay, that is really dope and really cool how they portray that. But yeah, so it gives me high hopes for some of the fights and action and stuff that's going to be coming up in the upcoming episodes as we go on throughout this series and stuff, it's got me very excited. I'm like, okay, at least first impression with the action and stuff looks good, looks well executed, and so I'm excited to kind of see more of that explored as the anime goes on. And one of the cool things that I always appreciated with the manga was the armor sets and clothing that some of the characters and warriors and stuff have. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Like I said, they like I said, like really brought to life Seraphina's armor and her crystal helmet that she's that's like her like signature piece of gear or whatever. They kind of brought that to life really well in the anime. So, but yeah, so let me know what y'all think of the series so far with this first episode. Like I said, I kind of wanted to do just mention that stuff up front before I dive into some deeper things. Cause and another thing I'll say as well, I don't want to really nah, I can't speak on that right now because that's going to spoil things. But like I said, just remember the main thing as you're watching the anime is give characters a chance to kind of let things play out and explain. Because, like I said, there's some other things that's coming up that also cause confusion. And so a lot of times it's like, hey, for one, take your time and read the characters' names and stuff. Because it's like, oh, is this character and this character? That's kind of a weird situation, relationship thing, whatever. It's like, no, different last names, yada yada yada. Hint, hint. Y'all will see. Y'all will know what I'm referring to when that moment comes a little bit later on. So, but anyway, so diving on ahead into the manga. So, like I said, if you're anime only, thank you for stopping by. We're about to dive into some manga conversations. So, like I said, let me know what you think of the anime and manga curious people. uh, let's kind of dive into it. So, it was so good going back to the manga with this series and diving back into this world because one thing, like I said, remembering how quickly they kind of dove into the bigger world and different stuff that's going on with these characters and stuff. What I'm like, oh, okay. Like I said, I remember it happening somewhat relatively quick, but it happened within like 5 chapters or so, I believe. So, like, Seraphina. So, yeah, so Seraphina, like, I just love the reminder of the part where, uh, she's talking with Vayar, and then they have that kind of like first big meeting with like all of the elders and stuff, so to speak, and they like pretty much blow the doors open as far as like, hey, this little what some of the other races and stuff, whatever we're calling like this little petty squabble happening between the East and the West kingdoms or whatever, or the West, coming over to the barbarian territory or whatever, like that is petty stuff. Like we don't care about. That means nothing because there is bigger things happening in this world. And like I said, that's where they introduce like, oh man, there are freaking elves, dwarves, fairies, all different types of mythical creatures, dragons, all this other stuff, and that there is a bigger threat that they are all kind of working together. It's kind of like a council, like a coalition to try to work towards. And then also kind of getting that reminder and stuff that it's like yeah, it's like the problems and stuff that are plaguing Seraphina's country and stuff and homeland are kind of self-inflicted because of how they use magic and stuff. Because one thing that I like about with the Vaor and all the other characters, whatever, is like for one, they respect strength. So, you know, if you're strong willed, stuff like that or whatever, they respect you. And then they also respect you if you have respect for nature, to where it's like you're not killing or hurting creatures and stuff just for the sake of hurting them. It is like, no, we're killing this dragon or this beast or this animal or whatever, either one for protection, protecting ourselves, or to eat. It's like otherwise, hey, the creatures do what they do or whatever, we do what we do. But yeah, that was like a very cool just reminder as I was going back through these chapters and stuff. And like I said, I originally read like 15 chapters last year and then went past that. Like I said, now, like I said, in the early 20s. And it's like really setting the stage for like, yeah, I'm excited to see more of the world explored because like those last like chunk of chapters I read, them going to the dwarf kingdom and seeing, their how their cities and stuff are built and their craftsmanship and also kind of getting some uh hints and stuff of like ancient technology and different stuff that the dwarves discovered centuries ago that they still don't know how they work and different stuff like that. So it just really does a really good job of setting the stage for long term interest. Because like I said, this stuff is happening over here, and then of course, like I said, like Seraphina's people in her homeland, they're still in this like tiny bubble of their perception of how things are, or whatever. Whereas Seraphina and other older warriors that went on expeditions over the years and then got captured, but then got their minds and eyes open to, hey, there are bigger things happening. And also, like, hey, you don't always have to just live a life of war. You can settle down, you can have a family, you can find a new place for yourself in this new land and stuff. And so, like I said, it's just so much good stuff that was happening throughout this. And circling back to what I was talking about earlier with the whole misconception of stuff. So, uh, lady, I think what's her name, Wisteria, aka uh, yeah, Wisteria, um, uh, Vayor's mom, who was the previous princess and like leader of the previous expedition 20 years ago, whatever, that went missing, whatever. It's like that part being like another kind of like misunderstanding because Seraphina's calling her big sis. I saw comments on from like older chapters and stuff from like when that happened. People like, oh my God, Seraphina and Vayar are aunt and nephew. That's weird. And it's like, no, she is. It's like Seraphina looked up to her. Like this is nothing new. We've seen in lots of anime and stuff, whatever, where characters that are not blood related that kind of have like a sibling like bond. Oh hey, big brother, big sister, whatever, but it's like no, it's just somebody that she looked up to like a big sister growing up, but they are from different families, different bloodlines and stuff. And like I said, once you actually look at the names, it is like, hey, no, they don't even have the same family name and stuff. And then what I've read in like one of the recent chapters past 20 or whatever, seeing the family and stuff again, seeing Seraphina's brother and then Wisteria's brother, who is like the overall king or whatever, them talking and stuff it's easily understood then, or just reaffirming like, yeah, these people are not related. So stop freaking out about that part. But but yeah, man, like I said, I'm kind of just rambling and all over the place, but like I said, I just really have been enjoying going back to this and then kind of looking back at it. So, Seven Seas is the publisher of the manga in English. And so, as of today, let's see, there are 6 volumes out. Volume 6 just came out like a week or two ago. And then Volume 7 is coming out in July of this year. So, it's pretty good, so that'll put them right about, let me see, because it's about 5 chapters per volume, roughly, because volume 4 ends at chapter 20, 525, 630. So, yeah. So, uh, one of the cool things I just got to gush about before I wrap this up here is the whole situation with them in the dwarf kingdom, like I said, aside from the ancient technology stuff that they kind of got a glimpse of and stuff, whatever, but Seraphina's new helmet and stuff, that's one of the things that I'm like, oh, I hope that by the end of this anime season, it might be cutting it close, but I'm like, it would be cool to see that animated, because all this time, I've seen the cover art with her with kind of like the like little like bunny ear looking thing, and I'm like, what the heck is this and what's going on? And then finding out that's her new crystal helmet or whatever that's got this freaking very dope uh technology and spell casting on it to where it responds to her willpower. So when she feels like she's threatened or she's um in the mindset to fight in combat or whatever, it will activate, and like this dope armor piece, it'll come down and cover her head and protect it and stuff, whatever. And then when her body is like relaxed and kind of being like, okay, there's no more threat, then it just goes back up to like the little like cute little cat rabbit ear things, whatever. So, but yeah, I hope we see that towards the end of the season. And then I have a feeling, I think that we probably will get that, because I think that the season is going to end with Vaor and Seraphina's fight versus that freaking humongous dragon as they were getting ready to leave the dwarf kingdom or whatever. Like that dragon fight, like how cool and stuff it was, and then the reveal at the end that the dragon can speak and is basically telling them like, hey, I this was a test, and that there are other things going on, kind of once again just like giving more lore and world building and more setup for future stuff, whatever. And so that's kind of like a very cool thing where they get to have a very dope fight, both get their minds blown by this freaking ancient dragon talking to them, and then setting up more things to come. So, but yeah, so I'm very excited to continue reading this, and to also continue watching the anime and stuff as well. So, but yeah, like I said, the Barbarians Bride manga is definitely one to keep your eyes on and to check out and stuff, because like I said, it's got some really cool lore and world building stuff that's like getting set up and stuff. So, but yeah, so I think I'm gonna end it there. Trying to think, was there anything else I wanted to talk on? Not too much. Like I want to just kind of keep this semi brief as I hit 23 minutes. But as always, thank you so much for watching and or listening. You can find me everywhere at Dad Needs to Talk for all your conversations on not just manga, but also fatherhood and family, anime, TV shows, movies, and of course the occasional video game. And with that, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.